the Sierra Now podcast. Thank you for joining us today. We're super excited to have you on board for the new year. Happy New Year. That's our first episode of 2025. And we got an exciting guest today. We're going to be talking about fishing on the Owens River. And I know that's a little different because we got a storm that's brewing on the Sierra here today and tomorrow. We got rain here in the Carson Valley. I just got back from snowshoeing at Lassen Volcanic National Park, and it's kind of strange for me to be talking about fishing. But I was been following Andre here on social media, and he's down there pulling trout out of the Owens River already. He's got a guide service in down the Bishop area, and I'm excited to bring him to you today. So, as always, our second year on this podcast, coming to you weekly with stories from the Sierra, helping you discover where to go, what to see, and how to get it done. We can't about our sponsors here from the Carson Valley, my home base for all of my adventures, and a great place for just for you to enjoy the wide open spaces. So if you indulge, let me hear a moment from our sponsors. Very good. We sure do appreciate the sponsorship of the Carson Valley Visitors Authority. Such a wonderful place to live. And unfortunately, I can't see Heavenly Mountain right now because it is pouring down rain here in the Carson Valley. Andre, how about you down in down the Eastern Sierra? Is it a nice day down there?
I'm looking out the window right now and thinking we live in different parts of the world because it's sunny out here and it's been warm. It's been mild. This has been one of the most mild winters I can remember.
Perfect fishing weather is what you're telling me.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're
well, thanks for being our guest today.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Charlie.
Absolutely. You've been guiding in the Eastern Sierra, or at least fishing in Sierra, since you were a little boy. How long have you been in the guide service business?
So officially, what I tell people for money, I've been doing it for about 7 years now. But, I've been taking friends and family from the valley floor here up to the backcountry for a lot longer than that. And I've been doing it myself since I was about 10, 11 years old. So
very born and raised down in the Bishop area. Is that kind of the area you're at?
No, I'm originally from Southern California. I moved up here about 12 years ago. But this is an area we always frequented as family, camping trips, fishing, hunting, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I have a group of hiking buddies who invited me down to Bishop this summer to go backpacking with them. And they're avid fishermen, and that's one of their favorite things to do is come up in the spring and go fish opening day on Convict Lake and Mammoth Lakes area, all the different lakes down there. And so this April, I'm supposed to come down there and go fishing with them and try it out myself for the first time.
Yeah, should be a great season. With the mild winter too. It's those fish tend to grow better in winters like this. So.
Oh, that's good. No, I didn't know that. So
yeah.
I am not an avid fisherman. I think I've told you that before. I fish when I get invited. I know how to fish, but not the best lure tire, I guess. What is it about the Owens River and that stretch from like Mammoth down to Lone Pine area spectacular for a fishery?
Yeah? Sorry, Charlie. I think I might have lost you there for a second.
That river so that's okay. We got a little bit of an audio delay here. Maybe the storm affecting us today.
Maybe. I take it you were just asking about the Owens River and what makes it a special fishery?
Looks like we got an unstable internet connection. Yep. Can you hear me, Andre?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, let's just go ahead and start over. I'll get that part spliced out of here. So what makes the Owens River such a special place as a fishery on the Eastern Sierra? I hear about it all the time. I know it kind of goes run from Mammoth to Lone Pine. What is it about that section of the river that's so awesome?
Well, what happens is you have all the water that drains from the mountains into the valleys, and you get the Owens River system, what we like to call it, and it's split up in a section where you have the upper Owens River, which is above Crowley Lake, and that's where you get those big migratory fish out of Crowley Lake into the river to spawn this time of year. And in the spring you'll have the cutthroat, and this time of year you have the rainbow trout, and then you have the lower Owens River, which starts below Pleasant Valley Reservoir, south of Crowley there, and that flows as the crow flies all the way down to Lone Pine, 70 miles or so, and as the river bends and turns, it's a lot more water to cover than that. So
Okay.
essentially what happens is that once the weather cools down and that river comes down into flow in the winter, it just turns into the prime fishery around here. It's a lowland water as opposed to when everything else is frozen in and inaccessible. And on warmer days, fish will be hungry, and you can have some fantastic days down here this time of year.
That sounds really fun. Is it rainbow and brown, or is it rainbow and cutthroat? What's the river best known for?
So this time of year, that upper Owens is going to be majority rainbow and some brown trout. The cutthroat are all back in Crowley Lake. And then if you fish the upper Owens in the springtime in May, early June, you'll get into those cutthroat that spawn out of there, out of Crowley into the tributaries. And then the lower Owens is just predominantly wild browns, and then you have a good population of rainbow trout too, and that's year round. But what happens this time of year is the water comes down to fishable flows, as opposed to summer when it's too high from all the runoff from the snow melt to even fish. So that's kind of what makes it special this time of year, is that it actually comes down into fishable shape.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's almost better to, do segments of that in the winter than it is summertime.
Yeah. In the summertime, we're not really focusing on the lower Owens River. It's usually too high and fast to even safely fish, honestly. And, it's just too darn hot down here. So we'll focus our efforts up in the high country, Crowley Lake, and, the mountains and the back country, which I'm starting to do a lot more of too.
Yeah. Okay, so you're doing some guide services up in the high country nowadays?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we last year we did our first run, had a week-long pack trip with some mules, and had a group of 6 we took up there into the Golden Trout wilderness. And yeah, it's all inclusive, and you just hike with your gear, and mules carry all the heavy stuff. There's a camp chef and the whole deal, but targeting the pure strain Golden Trout up there.
Nice. Very nice. I'm right in assuming that there's no golden trout in the Owens River, right? They all stay up in the high country,
Oh yeah.
correct?
Oh yeah. There's no Goldens way down here. They're all above 10,000 feet. You usually got to hike
Get me.
pretty
So
good hike.
can you hear me now?
What's that?
They're way up high.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. We have we have a pretty bad sound quality here going on with the interview. I do apologize. We're going to try to clean this up here a little bit, but as far as the guide service, Andre, what type of services are you offering to guests down there? What can a guest expect if they come up and use your service in the area?
Yeah, so if you come out on a trip with us, what you can expect is professionalism and a fun, safe day on the water. And the main thing is you're fishing with a local licensed, bonded, insured guide. You got some guides that don't live here full time and don't focus on these waters full time, but there is this handful of us who do. And my promise is that you're going to have a fun, safe day on the water. And the hope is that you're a better fisherman, better angler than when we first met that morning.
So you're going to teach guys like me who really don't know what they're doing how to throw those lures the right way, right?
Those flies. Yeah, exactly. Those are the best trips. When you get novice, just clean slate, no bad habits.
I'm your guy. Well, let me ask you this then. You've been doing this for some years, and you've been fishing the Owens River for some time. You've got to have some great fish stories, either as a story from a guest or your own fishing stories for river. You got any stories you'd like to share about fishing on the Owens?
Oh man, it's one of those you don't even know where to start. There's just, I mean, I don't. My mind doesn't even go to fish. The first thing it goes to is all the friends, and myself included, that have like fallen in the river, for example. There's The Owens River is tricky in that.
Okay.
So when the water does come down this time of year, you have a lot of those banks that have been cut in underneath, and you'll go stand on one to fish, and it'll give out under you. And we've all been guilty of it. So yeah, all my craziest stories are those. I've fallen into my neck before when it was like 18 degrees out. So it's yeah, dress warm is
Well,
what I
that
can
doesn't
say.
sound like
And
fun.
yeah, and luckily as a guide, I've made a lot of those mistakes for
Hey,
you. So if you come out, rest assured that I'll tell you, hey, don't do that. That's not a good idea. Stay back at this spot or something.
stand away from the bank a little more.
Yep.
Gotcha. So what's the biggest fish you've pulled out of the river, or one of your guests has pulled out of the river?
Yeah, I mean the biggest. I mean I've caught back in the day. They used to stock really big fish. Like I'm talking 10+ pounders when the Alpers program was around. So
Wow.
we were fortunate enough to get into some of those. You know, those are 28, 30-inch fish, and those are long gone. But you know, we'll still get into some good sized fish, and there's a lot of like a good sized wild trout. You're talking 14, 18-inch for that river system, and every season we'll have a few that top 18, you know, maybe 20 inches. And then it depends if the hatcheries are also throwing in their surplus of broodstock fish. And if they do that,
Yeah.
then, you know, you always have a shot at those 22, 24-inch fish as well.
Beautiful. Is is the river is it all catch and release this time of year, or is it do you or your fish are taking them home?
So yeah, remember how I said the river was split up into sections? Now you take that lower Owens and that's split up into micro sections. So you have the wild trout section, which is catch and release year round, barbless hooks, artificial, nothing with a scent on it. And then you have what's called the drift boat section. I like to call it the drive-in fish section because that's right outside of town and you can actually fish from spot to spot on dirt roads with your truck, you know, high clearance 4x. And yeah, that's about that on that. It's
Okay. So that's fascinating. So as a novice who would come visit down the area and go on the Owens River, how would I know where those sections of fishing are? Is it well posted, or is that why a set guide service is really
yeah, it's
kind of important down there
I mean
to
that's
know where
why
you go?
regulations exist. And like till this day, when I fish a new body of water, whether it be out of state or just anywhere, even out of country, the first thing I'll do is look into the regs
Mhm.
for that specific stretch of water. And it's pretty well spelled out on their website. And they have an app nowadays that makes it super easy, even if you don't have reception, you know where you're at. So, but yeah, because it can get tricky. You know, I've heard people say you need a
Yeah.
lawyer to fish in California, and you know, it does get tricky. But I would just always recommend look up the regs yourself. Don't take anyone's word. Don't even take word from a guide. Just because this stuff is ever changing, and some of us find out late about some of these rules. Like 2 years ago, there was a big blanket rule they did, and it overrid a lot of existing rules. So it's ever changing, and it's just yeah, look up the regs. That's number one before fishing.
Gotcha. So, that's actually good advice. Now you do boat fishing tours also in the spring, right? So you take people out on Crowley and Convict and different lakes around there as well. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. So the boating trips we focus on Crowley. I'd say 90+% of our efforts are on there. I'll do some trips on Bridgeport Reservoir, but for now
Okay,
we
yeah.
just yeah the boat trips are all Crowley. That's May through October, and what's special about that is those are the biggest fish you're going to find around this area. And you have rainbow, brown, and cutthroat trout in Crowley Lake, plus those Sacramento perch that are so good eating. And you're allowed to keep 25 of
Hmm.
those a day. So it's
Wow.
it's a pretty unique water and a unique fishery, and it's definitely the most unique roadside fishery we have as far as
Yeah,
number of
here.
wild trout and the size of the fish and quantity and quality. It's, you know, Crowley Lake's Crowley Lake. It's the jewel of the Sierra, as they call it.
Yeah, it's a little bit legendary. Everyone I've ever spoken to from the Southern Sierra region, that they Crowley is the place they all go.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So yeah, basically, if I'm not in the back
And
country in the
even like I said,
summer,
my neighbor's a
yeah,
big
I'm on
fisherman. He goes
Crowley
down to
Lake.
Crowley a couple
It's
times a year.
that's
So
where you want to be.
gotcha. That's really cool to know. What kind of local insights to fishing in general around the Eastern Sierra. Kind of take our hat off and out of the guide service moment to think about the listener a little bit. He's, people who love coming to East Sierra. What do people need to know about fishing the Eastern Sierra that's so unique?
That last part, it kind of cut out. You were saying, what do they need to know about the
Yeah,
fishing?
but what would a traveler need to know about what makes the Eastern Sierra so unique for fishing outside of a guide service? I mean, just coming to the Eastern Sierra and going searching for trout. What makes the Eastern Sierra so unique and fun to fish?
Well, to me, what makes it so unique are the mountains itself. And that the mountains, they dictate everything. It's the rain shadow effect they cast, and that dictates how all of the Owens Valley works and how the fish
Mm-hmm.
respond there. And it's the mountains, it's the mountains that I think that goes for everybody. The mountains have a certain draw inside of us that draw us into them. And then once you get in those mountains, it's just, I mean, thousands of miles of streams, thousands of lakes to get up there and fish. I guess what really keeps me going after hiking and fishing these mountains for almost 30 years, you'll never be able to hit every lake, every stream, even if you live 5, 6 lifetimes. And that alone is just enough wonder for me, to go up there, and it makes it special. You got pockets that are exclusively native Goldens. You have pockets that we're trying to restore the cutthroat in their native range. You have brooks and browns and rainbows along the way. You can go a whole day and fish 2, 3 lakes and never see another person, not even just another fisherman, just another person in general. And then, you take your say less privileged people, or people who can't get around as easy and can't get up in the high country. It's endless opportunities on roadside opportunities. You can drive up right to a stream. You can drive up to endless lakes and
Mm-hmm.
catch 5 different species of trout.
Yeah,
Shoot,
absolutely.
Bishop even has some ponds that, they got largemouth in there, 8, 10 pounders, and they
Mm-hmm.
built some handicap docks that you can just wheel up and fish right there. And the
Nice.
opportunities are endless.
Yeah, the one thing that I know that's impressed me with the Sierra since I've lived here, I grew up in the Cascade Mountains, and I just don't recall it being such a big deal. But the fish stocking programs that they have for the lakes and rivers around here seems to be managed on a frequent basis. All summer long I'm getting stocking reports at different locations throughout the Eastern Sierra. So it sure seems to be an industry that they try to nourish along. Hopefully that's all good. It's always government's always interested in getting involved, uh,
Yeah.
but hopefully you see the benefits of that from the average day fisherman coming up. So
Yeah, definitely. And actually, it's funny you bring that up, because me and some concerned locals and some concerned fishermen from down in the SoCal area, we actually
mhm.
started a new organization. We're trying to establish our nonprofit status, but that's ultimately what it is. It's a foundation to raise some funds to stock more fish in the area, predominantly Crowley Lake, and just
Okay,
keep the fishery going. Yeah, it's called Crowley Fish Foundation. We're
okay, great.
we're still super in the early stages of it. So like, we just got our website up and we're able to take donations through there now. And
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
we're hoping to get our first load of fish in there sometime this spring, probably in May or June,
Oh,
and
that's
then
great.
keep that consistently going. Yeah. So
Is there a particular species of fish that you're focused on most in expanding in the area?
so with the Crowley Fish Foundation, our main goal is to bring those wild fish back to Crowley, the fish that are able to reproduce, those wild rainbows that Crowley's known for, the big browns, the cutthroat. And we're starting with Crowley, but who's to say where it could go and what
Yeah,
other waters we could do work in.
that's fantastic. Do you have a favorite type of fish to fish yourself? I know there's a difference between brown and rainbow and goldens. I mean, they all fight differently and all bite differently. They have their own habits. What's your favorite to fish?
Yeah, I mean, as far if we're talking trout, Goldens hands down for me. They're
Yeah,
the hardest fighting, yeah, inch per inch. They're the hardest fighting fish, and just the effort it takes to get to them, especially the lakes that have bigger fish. And once you're there and you hook into some of those fish, it's just, that feeling is unmatched.
yeah. Do you take guided trips for golden trout up? Do you get requests for that? Do you take guides up into the
Oh
mountains
yeah.
to do that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So other than that week-long trip that we did last year, we're going to do that again this year, and I'm just about to announce it here. I just about got the web page done for it with all of this year's info. So that'll be July 27th to August 2nd.
Oh wow. Okay.
And yeah, if you go to easternsierrasportfishing.com, I'm sure you plug it in at the end there. All the info's on there. And then I'm also going to start offering day trips this year on horseback
Oh,
out
very
of
good.
yeah, with McGee Creek Pack Station right there by Crowley Lake.
Yeah, very good. I spoke to Aspen Pack Station last fall about their fishing trips. They do take guys in and drop them off the lake for 3 or 4 days and let them fish and come pick them back up. And I go, more people need to do that. So congrats on
Yeah.
you. I mean, McGee Station, that'd be a good place to go.
Yeah. So these are going to be like day rides. We'll leave about 8 in the morning. We'll be back at the pack station about 3 or 4 p.m. And it's a full day on the water, on the lake, lunch, picnic, the whole deal. It's fun times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know that that's a backpacking group I went to. We went up out of South Lake, up into the Chocolate Lake Loop and Long Lake up there, and they fished for 2 straight days nonstop, just catching fish left and right. And there's just catch and release that they were doing. They were just
Oh
having a
yeah.
ball fishing, but the activity was
Yeah,
fantastic in
that's a
July. So
super fishy part of the
very beautiful area to
backcountry.
fish,
Oh
obviously.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very good, very good. Do you have a favorite trail to guest calls you up and say, hey, I just want to go hiking the place where there might be fish? Do you have a favorite trail you like to send people up for fishing?
I mean, there isn't a favorite. It's just kind of, whatever they're into. Because so many of these hikes vary from difficulty. So I'll kind of feel them out and, see what their difficult. If they're not really experienced hikers, I might just send them, yeah, behind South Lake. Like you got Treasure Lakes there, and that's just a short
Yep.
little hike, and you can get into golden rainbow hybrids there. And if you've never caught a golden, it's bucket list kind of stuff, and
It
you're
is
not going to
bucket.
beat
Everybody
yourself
talks
up.
about it,
So
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I've only seen a golden one time. I don't even know what they would be like to catch them, but that's got to be pretty fascinating to find that native
It
fish
is.
up
It
up
is.
in the wilderness. So
It
yeah.
truly is. It truly is. Even the tiniest ones, the ones that aren't bigger than your palm, they're so special.
Yep, very cool. Well, hey, let's circle back. We only got a few more minutes here. Let's circle back to the Owens River here. I want to finish up some weather stuff. Like winter fishing to me seems so foreign, right? I grew up in the mountains. I'm not an ice fisherman and get out on the ice. The Owens River does stay a little warmer. What can guests expect weather-wise for coming up for a guided trip? For a random Friday in the Sierra. What kind of how should they prepare for a trip like that?
Yeah. So I always say dress in layers. And I say this for summertime trips on the lake where I know it's probably going to hit 80 that day and it won't get lower than 40. It's just I've been on the lake in June where it snowed. So same thing applies in the wintertime down here. You'll have days where it's 65 and sunny, and if there's no breeze, that's going to feel like 80 degrees in no time. So you definitely want to layer up, always have that t-shirt option, but always bundle up. The way I do it, I wear a wool base layer. I like to get like 55, 60% merino wool base layer. And then I'll just,
Yep.
jacket on top and layer up on top. And yeah, like I said, always have a shirt because you never know down here. Like, we should be having some weather by now. We're already into January, but it's been so mild. It's been t-shirt weather almost every day this winter.
Right. Yeah. Are you able to go out to pretty much every day and fish the Owens? I mean, are you a lifer? You just go out no matter what the weather is, or is there certain
I
conditions
mean,
you just say stay away from?
at this time of year, it's wind. I mean, that's kind of
Wind.
applies any time of year, but fishing the river here, you can fish it in snow, you can fish it in rain, and of course, that's if the clients are okay with that. But the only thing that would get me to, as a guide, stop the trip from happening is the wind because it gets so windy where you can imagine that fly line and the toolies, they don't get along too well.
Not too well. That's
Yeah.
actually a good question. Is it mostly fly fishing on the river? Is that the predominant way of fishing, or do you have to bring spinners out there and the whole thing?
So
Well,
we only guide fly fishing on the river, but there's sections where you
okay.
can fish bait, you can fish spinning gear, you can fish lures. No one's against that. Everyone's allowed to fish the river. But us as a guide service
Okay.
and pretty much every guide in the area, we target them on flies. The main reason being it's a pretty intricate way to target them. It's fun, and
Yep.
it's the least damage on the fish. You know, that fish is pretty much untouched. So you can imagine if all
Yeah.
us guides were using big lures with treble hooks, and there'd be no fish left in no time. So, but there's a lot of options.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I agree.
100%, you do not need to be a fly fisherman to have a good day fishing in the Owens Valley. It's open to everybody.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the scenery is so amazing looking at the mountains and just the valley you're in itself. I mean,
Oh
who
yeah,
can't have a good day on the Owens, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
That's fantastic. Well, hey, just so we make it clear, that Andre, he runs Sierra Sports Fishing.com. Is where you can find his guide services, his day trips, his different rates and stuff for half day and full day tours out there. Information coming on the bigger package this summer, obviously. You do lake fishing in summer, Owens River in the wintertime, especially, and then some guide service on top of that. So, Andre, before you leave today, we got a half-hour show here for our guests. I always ask my guests 3 questions at the end. They're really easy, but if you're open to it, unless there's something else you want to share real quick before we get done here, I'd like to get those 3 questions done for you, and we'll get going for the day.
No, yes, sounds good. Let's do it.
That sound good? Perfect. All right, so let's just assume that right behind you, your bag is packed. I know you're going to go fishing because that's what you do, but you have the entire Sierra region to pick a place where you're going to go fishing for the day, just for yourself to go hang out and enjoy the day. Where would be your? You don't have to give me your secret place, but where would be the place that you pack up and go fish for the day?
Yeah, so being a father of 2 little toddlers now, that question would have been answered differently a few years ago, but now it's packing up the kiddo stuff and just maybe even just taking them to the local pond down the street, just let them pull on a bass or a trout that might be in there. Just it's seeing them just even using that rod that makes my days off worth it.
That's fantastic. Now I'm gonna have to ask more questions because I didn't know that you had 2 little kids running around there. Kid fishing. How do you teach a kid to fish and enjoy it as much as? I mean, is that just something where they have to catch a big one, or is there a certain technique for teaching kids to fish
You know
and
what?
enjoy it?
No, that's not even it. I've taken so many kids out before I had my own, and now I'm starting to notice the same patterns in my own. That as long as they're busy, as long as they're being, and make sure it's not the type of fishing where you're throwing a rod out and then they can't hold the rod. They want to hold that rod. They want
Yeah.
to. They got to keep it moving. So, a lot of times I'll be out on the lake with my daughter, and she gets impatient. We'll be watching the bobbers on the fly rod, and you'll wait a few minutes sometimes in between bites, and for a kid rather, that's more like a half hour, a few minutes.
It
So
is.
I might give her little pole with a little like casting plug on it, no hook, nothing. She'll just
Mm-hmm.
cast that, but yeah, keep them busy. As long as you keep them busy and they're catching every now and then, and that'll make them
Yep.
keep wanting to come back. And yeah, they just bug me to go fishing all the time, so it's pretty great.
That's awesome. I think that's how I ruined my kids. I took them bass fishing in Iowa, and like the first 3 casts they ever threw, they caught 3 different fish, and then we left that day. And the next
Oh
time we went
man.
fishing was here. We moved here to the Sierra, and I didn't know what I was doing. We didn't catch anything all day long, and they never wanted to fish again. I was like,
Oh man, you
so
got to send them
obviously
my way,
activity
dude.
was everything.
You got to send them my way. I'll get that bug back into
That sounds good. That sounds good. Well, they're both grown adults now, but
them. Right,
we
right.
can figure that out. All right. So my second question: I'm a big foodie. When I go hiking, I get hungry, and I always want to come off the trail and go eat. So long day fishing on the Owens River, or you're backcountry fishing, you're coming back into town. What's that go-to meal that you have to have when you come back in after a long day outdoors?
Are you talking about a meal or a restaurant specifically?
Uh, just a meal. You can be a restaurant specifically if you know one, but just like I have to have a big cheeseburger and milkshake. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
for
looking for
me,
after a
for
big
me,
long
it's just
hike. So
a big ribeye steak, especially if it's after a long hike. There's nothing really satiates me like a big ribeye steak, and then I'm ready to do it again. And I will mention
Nice.
also, as far as restaurants go, like
You really can't go wrong with it.
if you're ever in Bishop and you spend a day fishing the Owens Valley, go check out the Roadhouse
Sorry,
in
Andre.
Bishop.
The Roadhouse. Okay, I haven't done that. I'll have to do that. That's a good choice.
Absolutely.
The Roadhouse for a ribeye. All right. So finally, and this is one of those fishing questions. I expect a good answer here. Okay, so everybody has their go-to piece of gear they don't leave home